Hello and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester and thank you for joining us for episode 101. Tonight we're going to talk about the transfer business so far, what to expect elsewhere and at Wolves this window. Are Wolves going to change to a back four? Take your questions and talk about England's trip to another European final. Delighted to be joined by our Director of Football, Chris Tyler, and also delighted to be welcomed by and accompanied by BBC WM's Daz Hale. There we go. A little bit of nice advertising in the background there. Nocky was due to be on the show, but he's actually bulking up his butcher franchise and currently travelling the whole of Scotland to get that business up and run. So good luck, Nocky, with your butcher franchise. Daz, we'll start off with Max Kilman. There's been a bit of ingoing and outgoing business, but Max feels like the biggest one so far. 40 grand to 40 million pounds. Your take on that transfer?
I think it's excellent for everybody. Look, terrific lad, terrific footballer. I mean, he's certainly not a leader, and I think that's one bonus here. It stopped any potentially awkward conversations this summer when Gary O'Neill's now got the opportunity to really stamp his mark on the club this summer. For me, it was when Dawson was injured for the last 2 months of the season. At that moment, then, you expect him as the senior centre-back and the experienced centre-back to really step up and become really dominant, and he didn't. So I wish him well. I've got nothing but good to say about the lad. And if he'd stayed, I'd have no problem with it. But I'm a little bit 40 million for him, all day long, personally, my opinion.
Well, it's a really interesting point, Tyler, with Max, because I mean, I think all three of us have spoke very highly of Max. Very accomplished, neat and tidy footballer, strong, probably lacks a bit of aggression, probably not what you call a typical captain. But what Dan says then, Tyler, about him missing Dawson, I don't think anyone missed Craig Dawson more than Max Kilman.
Yeah, agreed. And it was quite obvious, wasn't it, sort of come the end of the season, that natural leadership. But it was unnatural. It didn't come to him naturally, did it? And I think that was the point that Daz made. But on with Daz, I remember it might have been a couple of seasons ago. He was imperious at times for Wolves as a left centre back, and I remember he must have been close to getting an England call. Southgate was coming and watching him frequently, wasn't he? And I think, to be fair, I think he's unlucky to probably not get that recognition still. I think at the time he was the best left-sided English centre half in the league. Has he gone on and sort of kicked on again? Probably not. I think he sort of plateaued a little bit. And I think that's one of the reasons you can't turn that money down. But on with Daz, if you'd have said, no, I'm staying at Wolves, I'd have been delighted as well. So it does seem one of those deals where, you know, it suits everybody, doesn't it? It probably suits Max to have a fresh start, probably closer to his roots, suits us to get the money in the bank and suits the non-league side as well. So, yeah, once the 40 million was mentioned, it became a bit of a no-brainer, didn't it, really?
It's I know that there is mixed feelings about Lopetegui, not with the job he did because he came to keep Wolves up, he succeeded, but more the murky water left over in terms of the way he departed, in terms of taking it so long. So for me, that took a bit of the shine off. But this is like a little bit of extra Lopetegui tax paying back to Wolves, isn't it? Because would have West Ham been interested? Did Max Daz, do you think he impressed him that much? He must have done, hasn't he? Because he's made him his main summer target. So without Lopetegui, this probably doesn't happen.
No. And ironically, his last goal for Wolves should have been against West Ham in the 98th minute.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously Julian Lopetegui rates him, and it's business, isn't it now? You can't hold any, if Nuno comes and buys a player, I had a lot of time for Nuno. It just doesn't matter now. He's not our player anymore. It's football. He's moved on. And I just felt that at this stage of his career, this should have been the time where he really stood up to the plate and gone, right, I'm the captain, I'm the leader, I'm the dominant centre-back now, we kept 5 clean sheets all season, which I think just tells its own tale. That's not just down to him, and again, if this talk that we're going to go on to about playing in the back four, I ain't convinced. I'm not convinced, so I'll gladly take the 40 million and move on.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, there's a few questions about the back four. I know a few of the channels have mentioned that. I think Alex Richards from the Mirror tweeted a couple of weeks ago that Wolves were looking to go to a back four. I don't know if getting rid of Max helps that transition, Tyler, or not? Because I know there was a way at Burnley. I know you were there with Nocky when I think it was Totti and Max, and I don't think they played that well together. But it was against a team that got relegated that they were kind on the eye, but weren't particularly great, and they couldn't keep a clean sheet there. So, would Max have suited a back four, or was that part of the issue of the transition?
I think you're probably right, but I've said it quite a few times. I always struggle with the philosophy that an English centre-half can't play in the back four, because that's what you sort of born and bred on. So I never really buy into this, they can't play in the back four, because playing in the back four should be easier than playing in the back three, in theory. That's what kids, historically used to do. I know the game's changing all the time, but, we're still one of a few teams that plays with the back three, and it was a lot more hybrid last season, and you could see when it was a four and it would move into the three, etc. So maybe that lack of pace he's got, maybe that lack of aggression might let him down in that department. But I think I tweeted after the sale that we need 3 centre-backs, and people thought I was taking the mick. But I genuinely think that's where we're at. I can't see a full season from Dawson. My thoughts on Totti, and Santi's still the unknown as well, as is Mascara. So although there's 4 centre-halves there, you'd think vying for 2 places. I think there's still a lot of work to be done in that area. But, on with Daz, 5 clean sheets, not good enough whether you're playing 3 or 4. And is it time for Gary now to stamp his authority and, bring in what he did at, Liverpool and then at Bournemouth? It was a back 4, wasn't it? So you'd think that's the way he'd probably look to go.
The point you made there, though, is I think that Gary O'Neill's formations change a number of times within a match. So he will want the option of playing a back 4. And when he has done, I remember West Ham away, actually, ironically, it was an absolute car crash, wasn't it? And so he'll want to be able to do that. But I wouldn't necessarily read that into the fact then that every single week he'll be playing a 4. But I think the other key here is it's worth remembering that Gary O'Neill, as a manager, has never had a pre-season. He took over at Bournemouth in September, October, and had to just muddle through. We all know the story about when he took over at the Wolves. And so now he gets the opportunity, he was having the opportunity to have 2 months, just when Nuno came in, right at the start of at the end of the season, 2 months to really work on players, improve players, and I think really stamp his identity on what he wants his team to be, because he never had the luxury of doing that. And from day one, he talked about certain players' levels of fitness weren't maybe what he would have liked. Well, he can't say that this time round because they've got 2 months with them. So this is a real first time for Gary O'Neill and his staff to really genuinely be able to mould their team, whether in the transfer market and tactically as well. So it'll be very interesting to see how different it looks, if it looks different at all, come that game at Arsenal.
Yeah, I think about stability, because come the Celtic friendly away in Dublin, that's when I think the white flag was raised, saying I'm no longer going to be the manager of Wolves, and that gave Wolves a lot of instability. So although Wolves are fantastic at Old Trafford, it does excite me that with a full squad and with improvements, what is Gary O'Neill capable of anyway? But just bringing it back to Max Kilman, 40 grand to 40 million, it's fantastic business. Right time for Max, feels like a right amount of money for Wolves. I think West Ham have got their man, but in terms of the business done with Maidstone, I just want to get a feel for this, because originally it was 20%. Then it's come out that Wolves negotiated down to 10%, but that includes, I think they've got two friendlies, consecutive seasons with West Ham and Wolves, and there's like a gentleman's agreement with loan players. So as well as getting the 4 million, they've probably not got the 4 million, but there has been some meeting. So they've met somewhere in the middle to get the deal done. What's the feeling on that?
Well, I think it's just the nature of the world. They could have said no. They could have gone, no, we're not. We want to stick to our initially agreed sell on, but they would have then lost out on several million pounds. You see that they've obviously gone to them and look, it's either this or he ain't going.
Yeah,
you're not going to turn down 3-4 million pounds. Plus, then the opportunity, as you said, of having maybe some of the Wolves youth players come down. They're the academy players. Plus these pre-season friendlies as well. look, they didn't have to take it, but I just think it's the modern world now, and no one put a gun to their head, did they? So it was up to them.
Yeah, I know, Tyler, that some people have said, oh, the Wolves are out of order, costing this much money. But at the end of the day, when we all buy or sell a house or something else that's negotiable, like if someone's buying a car, you negotiate, don't you? So are we praising Wolves or have Wolves done a bit of bullying here? What's your take?
No, Wolves haven't done anything wrong, have they? Like Dad says, they've offered them a deal and they've taken it. No one's forced them to. Would they ever have thought that Max Kilman was going to be a £40 million centre-half when they sold him to us? No. Who were the club that took the punt and gave them the 40 grand in the first place? Wolves. So, like Dad said, it's business. It's nothing personal, is it? They don't owe us anything and vice versa. So, Mr. Chairman was probably over the moon when 4 million was quoted, wasn't he? So, Wolves haven't done anything wrong in my book. It's just two organisations doing a transaction, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I think we can draw a line of the Max Kilman stuff. I think it's worked out everybody. Worked out West Ham got their man. We got our money. Maidstone doing well. Max got his move as well. So, yeah, probably the right time in his career. That just looking at things the other way, we've had some incoming business as well. We've had Rodrigo Gomez that come in from Braga for about 12.5 million. Pedro Lima, who's come in from Brazil, probably the next best right back to come out of Brazil, for about £8 million. Tommy Doyle we know about, and then we've signed Jürgen Strand Larsen for a loan fee of 3 million, which has got an obligation at the end of that. Exciting early business. It's something, Tyler, that we've talked about for quite a while. Let's get the business done early, and it never happens at Wolves. It always feels like you're selling players until the start of September. You're signing players less in the window. Wolves have gone out. I don't know. I mean, I think we all agreed that Wolves would look very different come August than what they did when they finished in May. But this is a really strong start, and I mean, we'll talk through them. We know about Tommy Doyle. We know what he does. I don't think he still gets in Wolves' strongest 11 with if Joe Gomez and Mario Lemina are there, but still Tommy Doyle started about 20 games for Wolves last season. At one part of the season, he carried the team. There was a couple of games, I think, when Mario had the family tragedy that Tommy Doyle really stepped up. So for £4 million, that's fantastic business. The main one that stands out for me, Daz, Jürgen Strand Larsen. Now, Wolves have pretty much played a season without a centre forward. We've put Wang in there. Cunha's sort of gone up, yeah. But it looks like Wolves have got a big centre forward. He's mobile. He's an international footballer. For me, this is very exciting. That will allow Gary O'Neill to play the style of football that he wants. It's
several seasons, if we're honest, isn't it? Without a proper, since Raul Jimenez in his pomp, since the accident. He just ticks every single box, doesn't he? And anyone can look good on YouTube, but you see some of the finishes and some of the goals that he scored and the way he scored them. He's an international. He's battle hardened. He's certainly hungry. He does seem to appear to tick every box. What I would say is that they can't leave it there, because when Sasa comes in, does his cruciate 40 minutes into his debut, we're scuppered again. So they still need to add another centre forward, a proper centre forward. Now that means competition for places. It's a long season. Otherwise, you're going to end up back to where we were last season with like 15-year-olds sitting on the bench again. Having one isn't enough for me.
Is there a situation here, Tyler, when if Wolves, I mean, we don't know how they're going to line up, but if you've got two left-sided players, two right-sided players, is there a situation where Huang could be your backup number 9? Is that something that's acceptable, or do we definitely need another out and out, like in the same sort of mould as the new centre forward?
Yeah, I'm with that. You still need another out and out for me, definitely. And the squad's been too comfortable for too long. You know, the players know. You could pick the team itself, couldn't you, when everyone's fit last season to a point, bar maybe one or two. And there needs to be competition for places. It's massive. You need 2 for every position. And obviously, we didn't have that at times last season. So I think it's about balancing the squad. But, you know, for me, I'm not saying Che Adams is the one. I'm not. But that sort of business where it's smart, someone that's probably almost willing to fight for the place, not be a bit part player, but knows the league, could maybe chip in with 8, 9, 10 goals in a season. That's the sort of business I'd be looking to do, because we haven't signed this guy to play second fiddle, have we? I think he will be our starting striker, but he still needs someone, knocking on his shoulder, ready to take his place. And for me, Hwang, I think, is a squad player for next season. That's how I personally see his ability levels. I think he can cover striker, right forward, left forward. Like you say, Ryan is a good asset to have. But on with that, I still want another recognised centre forward.
I think with Hwang, so streaky, isn't he? That it goes months where you really can't see what on earth you're getting, why he's in the team. And then he go on another little run, like he did in the first half of the season, where he was absolutely electric. And then since he came back from the international tournament after Christmas, he'd obviously had his hamstring issues. Again, he was just a passenger. And
shadow of himself, wasn't he?
And so you've got suspensions, you've got loss of form, and you just don't want it. You've got to learn here. And quite right, somebody like Shay Adams, who is a free agent, who, he wants to move back to this part of the world as well. And he can play anywhere across the front three. He's a good lad. He's got a good attitude. Now, not necessarily him, but that ilk. But you can't get to the point again where you've got to say, right, then we've got this kid who's 16, and I imagine they'll let Fraser go out once they manage to get another one in. But otherwise, you're just one injury away again from being back to square one.
Something you mentioned, I think I was looking through my notes from almost a year ago, Daz, we were talking about squad sizes, and you mentioned now how much the game has changed tactically because you've got 5 subs to use. So it's not just about squad depth. It's now that you can change half of the outfield. So last year, how many times we're having a decent game? I can't remember. There was a game that escaped me, but the significant difference in the subs made at home, it changed the game because we ran out. It was very much like for like. The opponent brought on 2 or 3 subs that had quality. They were like for like changes, and we didn't have that. No disrespect to Nathan Fraser.
Might have been Liverpool.
It might have been. It might have been. It was early in the season, and we made a really good account of ourselves, but we were just gassed. Nathan Fraser will go on to have a good career. Will it be in the Premier League? We don't know, but we do know that Nathan Fraser needs regular football, and that's not going to be where he is. And if he's a backup again, it's probably going to hurt Wolves, and it's going to hurt his development. So you're right, absolutely loan for him. Probably a league one.
This 5 substitutions rule, we all know it was certain clubs who wanted it. Everybody said, well, hang on a minute, that's going to give them a huge advantage because they can bring 5 world-class players off. And they battered it up and said, no. That's exactly what's happened.
Yeah.
When you look at your bench and then you look at Manchester City's or Arsenal's or Liverpool's or whatever. But yeah, the fact now that a lot of managers now are making, whether it's tactically or whether it's because sometimes it's the analysts who are telling them that they even know on 60 minutes, 62 minutes, they're going to change this and this. And it is now a 16-man afternoon, a 16-man evening. You very rarely go through a match when you don't make all 5 substitutions now.
Yeah, there's usually the 4, isn't there? And they keep one for probably the last minute or so. But it happened probably not as much as Wolves should have because of, as we mentioned, how thin the squad was, but that's something that's certainly got to change.
So you've got other players and other teams who've got bigger squads who are fresh, regardless of how good they are, they're fresh. Well, we've got people who are they were running on fumes after Coventry onwards, I think, really.
Yeah, they were gassed. That was probably the beginning of the end of the season, wasn't it, really? As well as Jorgen Strand-Larsen, that I'm very excited about. Note about Tommy Doyle. We brought in Pedro Lima. Now, I can't pretend to know lots about Pedro Lima. I've seen his highlights reel. I've seen the read-ups from the Brazilian journalists. Apparently, they're talking about this kid being the next Brazilian right back. And if he lives up to that, it will be fantastic news for Wolves. Strong, quite a big guy for his age. I think he's just turned 18, pacey, comfortable with the ball. Quite a few people are suggesting that as his career goes on, he'll probably move further up the pitch and be more attacking. But as starting the season, Tyler, we're looking at Nelson Semedo, if he doesn't move away, which he may well do, a year left of his contract. We're looking at Pedro Lima or we're looking at Matt Doherty. Now, if it's wing-backs, it's a tough one, isn't it? So they've said he's coming straight in. He'll be competing for a place in the team. So for me, it is improving, Tyler, but this is exciting. It's 7 million in modern football. It's not a huge amount of money. This is the kind of business. And if all the Brazilian journalists are saying this kid is special and we've got in there and we've got the business done early, this could be Hobbs cooking again.
It's an interesting signing, isn't it? It's one that sort of makes you makes you take notice a bit. He was going to Chelsea. It was a done deal, and obviously we've done something about that. I suppose I'd just mention balance of the squad, and I think right backs I can count 5 probably, with Hoover and Dexter as well. So you'd like to think, or you'd presume 2 or 3 will be making way. Matt Doherty, another 2-year deal on his wages. That's not a very good business decision from Wolves. So will something happen there? Who knows? But if you're sort of keeping him and Semedo, that's what you're talking about. That's 2 decent-looking players per position. And, Nelson's had it come to Blasny. He's one of those players. Fair play to him. He's obviously self-motivated. He can perform week in, week out. But he's got no pressure on him at right back. If he's fit, he starts. So it's great to see that that's a position where, we look like we've got genuine quality. Can we get the same at left back and other positions? Who knows? But that was the signing that made me think, hang on a minute, that there's something going on here. And like you said, it's exciting.
Yeah, and Daz, I mean, I know it was a slightly different deal at Chelsea because they were, as Chelsea do, they have one of the biggest wage bills and they spend a huge amount of money on hundreds of footballers. But I believe the deal was to bring him in. He was going to go straight out on loan, whether that was Germany, I can't quite recall, or Belgium. He was going to go to one of those leagues. But obviously Wolves are saying, you're part of the squad, you're competing to be a Premier League footballer. So fantastic from Wolves again, because if you're competing with Chelsea and you're beating them to a player, Wolves are doing well.
Well, there's a 16-year-old playing at the moment in the Euros. It's the old adage about if you're good enough, you're old enough. And I think the other point is that, I think you touched upon this earlier, is that usually we sell players late in the winter and then we're racing around on transfer deadline day, like on a trolley dash, whereas this time we're getting the players in first. Now that we've got our replacements in before we let players go. And if certain, we're not under any FFP issues, it's not like we have definitely then got to sell someone. So then if offers do come in for certain players and they go. But at least we're not then going to go, hopefully, blimey, what we're going to do now, we brought our centre forward in, for instance, which is the main, I think the main thing that everyone would have been the priority before, before the window opened.
Yeah, so it's exciting. Wolves have been proactive and not reactive. It's a good head start, and we're getting players in early to get used to Wolves, get up to speed, get used to their teammates, get used to Gary's system. As I said, there's a whole difference between 6 weeks missed under Gary O'Neill, drilling the tactics in as to depend to arrive in a day before the window arrives. So yeah, I'm really happy. Last but not least, and definitely won't be the last signing so far, Rodrigo Gomez, fantastic season last year, went out on loan from Braga. I don't have the stats in front of me, handful of assists and goals. Wolves have signed him for about £11.7 million, 20 years old. Originally started as a right back, a right wing back. He can play as a left forward, inverted. I don't really know where Wolves are seen, because from having, worrying about Nelson Semedo, he could play right back, he can play where Neto, because I think Neto is inevitably going to go, or he looks like someone from where most of his stats have come from. He can cut it from the left-hand side. So again, Tyler, this is really exciting.
Yeah, you hope it turns out to be in the mould of a Neto type, don't you? Where you bought cheap and you're getting quality. And I like the fact he seems almost ready-made. The transition from Portugal to England tends to be quite a good one, a comfortable one. It's a physical, pacey, quick league. So yeah, again, it's just an exciting signing, and I'm sure we'll talk about who we think might leave. But if you'd have said to me, those 3 players before we go on the trip to Marbella, then we'd have all bit your hand off, wouldn't we? So it just looks like good, smart business, isn't it? We've talked about those 10, 15 million pound bracket for players that are out there. They're all the right age. They all should increase in value. They should all be sellable assets in the future. So just looks like smart, clever business, and hopefully it continues.
Just a comment from Dad Creek there, saying he saw him 4 or 5 times at Braga last year, inverted on the left, full of energy. So, I mean, that's the way I think Gary would potentially like it, even if it's wing backs or not, to have those forwards that can cut inside, opens it up for the full backs or the wing backs. I think that's the way he's going to play now at Big Man Off. Thanks for being part of the show, Ryan and Dad Creek. That's the business so far. I genuinely believe, guys, and I might be wrong on this, I just feel like this is the tip of the iceberg. I'm not saying that it's going to be millions and millions of spent, but I think Neto's going to go. I know people aren't going to like this. I think Ait-Nouri will go. I think all those left footers will go. Obviously, Kilman, Ait-Nouri, Neto.
Goalkeeper.
Yeah.
That's been since the end of last season that he moved out or whatever. I mean, I don't know, but if Arsenal want to double their money to £1 million for Bentley, then all day long, please.
Still there, Daz?
I'm here. I just wondered if you was I've stunned you into silence.
Still, yeah. I miss you. You talked about Jose Sar's. I know there was talk about it on social media that Jose Sar, he'd maybe said his goodbyes or he'd moved out of his house. We don't know how true that is, but if that's the case as well, we're looking at a new goalkeeper. Obviously, there's the links to Kasper Schmeichel. Now, I know me and Tyler have talked about this. I know there's a bit of a. I mean, it's a Premier League winner, 38. It's not particularly like over the hill for a goalkeeper in the Premier League. International, solid, big mouth, big personality. So yeah, I mean, would we be against a signing like that in that position?
How good is he with the ball at his feet? Because that's something else I think now that Wolves, pretty much everyone looks at now.
Yeah, I think he's just okay with his feet from what I remember. He's not particularly great, but again, he's a character, his experience. If you sign him on a 12-month contract, I'm not against that. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But I mean, looking at the rest of the pitch and the team, who else, Daz, do you see as going? I think Neto will go, and I think Ait-Nouri will go. Do you think that'll be it, or do you think we could be in for any of the nasty surprises?
I I don't think Cunha certainly doesn't want to go, and I think politically now he's brought the lad in with him and done the video and all that. I don't see any way that he will be allowed to go, and he's one of the players that Gary O'Neill definitely wants to beat this summer.
A contender for captain as well.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's him. There's obviously Mario Lemina as another potential. So you don't know, do you? But I think as regards bringing players in, I just still think the spine. You know, so there will be some. I mean, you'd imagine that someone will put some money down eventually for Neto towards the end of the window, if he hasn't done his hamstrings again in the start of the season. So I think that one might happen.
Well, I'm delighted, to be honest. People were saying, I need more Neto, get more money. And I'm like, no, save Neto. Let's keep him fit and then sell. I mean, that sounds like really brutal, but I want the guy to get his move. I want us to move on because I love Neto, but I'm concerned that that injury record at 23, 24, I think it's probably the right time. Tyler, would you agree that it's the right time to cash in? Because is his value getting any bigger than this, or would he go to a bigger club and get protected because he's having less minutes but more quality and being able to play 60 minutes, 45 minutes?
It depends what you want to get as a fee, because I think we talked about it towards the back end of last season. I don't see a big club paying the top price for him because of his injury record and the fact he may be more of a squad player there. You know, when you're talking about your 50, 60 millions, even if you're a Man City or Liverpool, that's a player coming in to be your main man. And I don't think Pedro Neto is their main man because of his injury records like we talked about. So I do find this a funny one. Whether Wolves will be a bit more open to the price to get the sale, maybe. I don't see a club coming in and spending that amount of money on him.
What do you think? What do you think is a realistic fee then, Tyler?
I don't think a team would want to pay more than £40 million for him. Max Kilman, you're getting I know it's a different position.
But 40 for him, would you take it?
40. If it was £40 million up front paid, yeah, I probably would.
With add-ons, further down the line.
Yeah, because I think a Spurs or an Arsenal might pay that sort of money for him.
Yeah,
can't see him paying 50, 60.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because he's one of the most incredible entertainers. When Neto is playing against a team that doesn't tuck in, and he's playing against the best defenders who are playing the high line. We saw what he did to Man City. We saw what he did for Villa. Champions League teams, he's pulling their pants down and going, Pedro Neto is an entertainer and he's brilliant. But it's such a danger. You keep him. He does that hamstring again. You're taking 15, 20. If he's done his hamstring for the fourth time and he's 24, it's such a tough one. I love Pedro Neto, but again, I think it might be time. I'm not like I've had enough in that because he gives absolutely everything. He's an entertainer and he's a master of assists against the best sides. So I think Wolves probably have to cash in.
And would you take 40?
Me?
Well, both of you, yeah.
But I don't think he isn't any good to us sitting on the treatment table, is he? So I think 40, and then add-ons for if he wins the league or if he does this or if he manages to play 2 matches in a row.
That'd be nice to know.
Then, yeah, I think that's probably more realistic than this 60 million that was being bandied around.
Because his minutes per assist ratio in the Premier League, I think, was only bettered by Kevin De Bruyne last season in terms of minutes played. Now, that tells you the impact that that guy can have. It also tells you how long he was out injured for as well, because I know KDB was out as well. So maybe his numbers are skewed because he didn't play as many games. But the fact he was hitting phenomenal numbers, it's a tough one. From what I understand, I think the Pedro is as good as gone. And it's a matter of how much Wolves can get for him. So
someone made a good point there, right? I don't know if it was Adrian, but there is a chance that he gets fit, starts the season, goes like a train, and then you might look at either sell right at the end of the window or all January. But
I just think that's a doubt, because if he flies and Wolves are absolutely cooking and you sell him on the last day because Arsenal have had a bad start of the season, you get 60 million and you take Pedro out, that's
what if he signs debut against the Wolves? Against the 18-year-old kid.
And Lima pockets him, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? I mean,
don't you? That, again, I said before that maybe clubs will just wait, let him start the season at Molineux and just see if he stays fit, because they don't want to be coming in here now, putting down 40, 50 million, and then his hamstring goes again next week and he's out till Christmas. So I wonder whether that one might be.
Yeah, and for that reason, Ryan, I'm a bit different to you. I don't see him going for that reason alone.
I mean, if he stays, I'm delighted, because he's an entertainer and he's productive. Pedro Neto staying at Wolves is not a problem for me at all. It's just all the noises that I understand coming out that I believe at the end of the season, Wolves, not pimping out, but Wolves are making people aware Max Kilman's for sale and so is Pedro Neto. Come and get your players. And I just feel that he'll be gone.
Well, whether you rate Kilman or not, you're getting a 27-year-old, ready-made, experienced Premier League centre-half that doesn't miss a game, that doesn't get injured. So West Ham are probably looking at that thinking, that's over the next, has he signed a 7-year deal, 8-year deal?
7-year deal, yeah.
It's nothing. You can't do that with Neto because you just don't know what you're going to get. And I think that's what I'll put. And people put in the thread about, they signed Nunes for 50 and Calvin Phillips. Well, yeah, but they won't do that again because they've already been burned by that. So, and how much money do these big teams have? There are rules that everybody has to adhere to. Abroad, maybe. Would he go abroad? I don't know, but.
Yeah, I mean, you make a really good point there. And thinking about it, that does make sense, because if I was the buying club, I'd want to go, well, I want to see Neto do the first 4 or 5 games, get a couple of assists and a goal, looks fit, right, then let's bid for him, let's get it done. But they run the risk if another big comes in elsewhere. But interesting, but this might sound strange to people, but the one that would hurt me the most out of the players we've mentioned is Ryan Ait-Nouri. Again, it's not all about entertainment, but that guy is an absolute pleasure. You pay your money to be entertained. Yes, I want to win, and my Saturday night feels much better if Wolverhampton Wanderers have won. But if they've won and they're entertained, it's even better. Ait-Nouri, for me, is one of the most spectacular entertainers I've ever seen playing football. He is a delight dribbling on the ball. That little shuffle he does, left foot, right foot, I don't think I've seen it. Considering he's a defender, he could play anywhere. He's just so much fun. But apparently, one of the lowest earners, a couple of years left in his deal. Again, Liverpool interested. I think some other clubs interested. Why wouldn't any top 6 side be interested in Ryan Ait-Nouri? Entertainer, probably not as productive going forward for what his skill says, but he had that spell at the end of the season where he was probably Wolves' most productive player. So yeah, Daz, thoughts on Ryan Ait-Nouri?
Couldn't even get in the squad when Lopetegui was manager.
Wow.
He said his training wasn't good enough. I agree. I think it's fantastic. But I think the thing with him as well is that there's still more to come. And I would put him down as one of the players, actually, that Gary O'Neill and his staff have managed to improve. And he did mention one of the press conferences towards the end of last season. I think one of the players actually was Boubacar, who there's been talk he might go. But he said in a press conference, he said, I can't wait to get hold of him in the summer and have some time with him. Because I think it's about what it is about improving players as well. So
that guy's engine is phenomenal. If they could put a bit of everything else into that player, he's an incredible athlete. And I mean, he can play football as well. But like you said, he's still young. And if Gary can have a great pre-season with him. But again, there was rumours recently that he may go on loan. I think some French sides were interested. So
can I ask you, because he's gone on the tour now, it may just be he's gone on the tour to make it look like he's part of what we want to do. But Podence,
I mean, it's a no-brainer for me. I watched him against Villa in that. I watched him against Villa in them European games, and he was so good. That the through balls he's passing, he's got that little bit of shit house and that bit of spice as well. And I think we are a bit nice, and we've talked about this for multiple years on the podcast. I don't want loads of animals, but he's got that bit of spice about him. And I know he infuriates people because he throws himself around, but he does things that others can't do, and he's prepared to try things. We've talked about this, Tyler. He's prepared to try, something ridiculous. He only has to come off once, and Wolves have scored. Last year, when Lopetegui was there, think of the goals he got us out of trouble. Everton, Villa, Forest. He stepped up and got us out of trouble. So for me, if he stayed, if he was a surprise package, I know he's got 12 months on his contract, give him a 2-year deal, give him a pay rise, I would keep Daniel Podence.
It is an interesting one, and he does split opinion. I'm with you, Daz.
Sorry, split opinion, did you say?
I'm just a bit intrigued as to why he's there. You know, Guedes hasn't gone, Fabio Silva hasn't gone. So they're two the right.
Apparently, Fabio.
What's that?
He's at the hairdressers again.
Oh,
Fabio
no,
good God.
You almost thought that Podence, rightly or wrongly, was in that camp. It was almost like the old bomb squad under Kenny Jackett, wasn't it? It's almost like they've been cast aside. But
on the other side, though, Podence has gone away and delivered. He's won a European trophy, and he's been brilliant.
I know Neil's could well have taken notice. Hang on a minute, who's this guy? He looks half decent. Oh, he plays for us. Oh, okay, sound. And who knows? It's worth a conversation, of course it is. But if his mind's made up and he wants to leave, go back to Greece or whatever, then wish him well. But I'm with you. I'd certainly, if he was interested, integrate him into the squad.
Yeah, Daz, keep or sell?
O'Neill was asked about this towards the end of the season, about all the loan players coming back. He said, well, there's two things. Because one of them, they need to want to be here. And I think that it's a different club for Daniel Podence now than when he left, because obviously, again, he'd fallen Lopetegui and certain other things had gone on. So it's a different club now. And then he said, secondly, they need to fit in within the culture of this club. And again, that may count against Podence, but you don't know. He might have come back, might have been good as gold pre-season. It's still a Premier League football team. You know, let's not forget. I mean, the Premier League's like the nadir, isn't it, for everybody? And if he's got a chance of a fresh start and sees that centre forward coming in as well, and he might, you don't know. So if it's the Daniel Podence who was our leading scorer a year ago, then I would certainly be prepared to give him a go. Is he better than what we finished last season with?
100%. He starts 20 games last season for Wolves if he's here, easily. I know he really splits opinion. People get frustrated with his theatrics, and he's angry and he's a shithouse, but we need that in the team. But he's a brave creator. He will try the things that frustrate, but they only have to come up once, and he opens a team. His goal at Nottingham Forest is a prime example. Touch, turn, finish, bang. Wolves were utterly shambolic that day, but they got a point at Forest. So, yeah, I would definitely take him back. We're absolutely flying into 38 minutes into the latest episode of the Wolves Report. Wolves Report is always streamed live on Facebook, formerly known as Twitter and YouTube. Please give us a click or a like on there. I don't think I've ever said that before, but hey, let's see what happens with that. It also then gets uploaded to Spotify afterwards. So thank you to those who are watching so far and listening so far. And also thank you to those who are listening on a replay as well. Lots of talk about a back four. I've bored people senselessly about a back four. I don't really care as long as the Wolves are good. But as it stands, Daz, the talk of a back four surely can't happen without new centre-backs.
No, it can't. I agree. And I don't think it will happen without new centre-backs, because it's no secret they're in the market for at least one. Mascara's getting his chance now. He's an unknown quantity. But very few teams now play with the back three, do they? And it didn't help us last season in as much as I said, we only kept 5 clean sheets. But he'll know what he wants to do. And as you said before, it'll change horses for courses throughout the season. But it goes back again for me to having the strong spine and defending from the front initially as well, and the press. And, you know, it's not just about the back four or the goalkeeper or the people in front of it. But it would free us up, wouldn't it? If we were able to get 2 commanding centre backs and proper. And again, there comes the question then about who does play full backs, because a lot of people we got are actually perhaps more suited to being wing backs, which again comes within the makeup of the squad and the moulding of the squad. But I really don't mind either way, as long as it's getting us results. But you've got to. Last season he did it a few times when we didn't have the personnel to do it, and boy oh boy did we pay for it. So you only do it if you've got the right players, which takes us back to your point. We need proper centre backs who can play. We said it about Cody, and people mocked us when we said it about Cody, and sooner that's how it panned out, wasn't it? You know, got bombed out by England.
Yeah, absolutely.
Couldn't get in their team in the Champions.
Well, that's it. Play with the back four, and Cody couldn't get in. Conor Cody's one of the best humans to play for Wolves, the most successful captain in our lifetime. He deserves respect, but he's not a centre back in a back four. And playing in the Championship for a season, he couldn't get in a four, and that tells you because he's not a centre back in there. But you make a really interesting point, Daz, about the defending from the front. The difference is now with playing a back four. I know this is reaching way forward, but you've got a proper centre forward to hold the ball up. That's going to take the pressure off the midfield and the defence. You've got a guy that can give you 30 seconds, give you 10 seconds. He can feed it in, hold the play up, as opposed to having to turn and run every single time. Now we've got someone to hold it up, bring people into the play, slow it down, or feed the wide players in. So I think that will help defensively as well, having someone that can help dictate what we want to do at the business end of the pitch. While we're on the back four question, let's bring in a couple of questions. Gary W asked, back four has not really clicked when tried. Teams look better as a five, and Semedo looks better as a wing back rather than a fullback. Do you think with the personnel changes and pre-season, Gary O'Neill could get this right? I think this sort of feeds on to what we've just been talking about. But I do think, I think you've mentioned it, Tyler, earlier on. Liverpool you set up, I think, at Bournemouth back four. So I do think going forward, Gary will want to go to a four.
Yeah, and like I said, it blows my mind that we can't play with a back four. I'll never understand it, for as long as I live. But it's the unknown with the centre halves, isn't it? Mascara, we're all quite intrigued, aren't we, to see how he's developed. It was only a friendly, but I remember watching him at commentary and he could barely walk straight. So he's obviously gone and learned his trade, and I think he's played right back as well. So he brings a bit of flexibility with him. It's interesting, isn't it? You'd like to think at least one's coming in to replace Max, and I think the makeup of that centre half that they do sign will probably tell you where we're at. But on with Daz, I think both the left backs aren't out and out left backs in Ryan Ait-Nouri and Hugo Bueno, and I'd argue Nelson Semedo and this new lad we've signed don't look like.
I would say all of them. I'd say Nelson of all of them, he's probably the one that could play in the back four because he was outstanding last year.
And he did it for Barca. And so there are questions there, aren't there? There's a lot of questions to answer pretty quickly. But again, I agree with you, boys. If you've got a centre forward,
you can experiment pre-season, which is going back to whereas before, he was experimenting in Premier League football matches because that was it. Now he's got 2 months or whatever it is to really, really just get the team and the mould and the balance and the personnel that he wants to play, how he wants to play, rather than these are the players I've got. Let's just try which is what Lopetegui did to a degree, in fairness, although he did bring a few in the January. But this is what I've got to work with. And when you consider as well what we sold last summer, again, I think it's easy to forget because of the poor end of the season. It was a bloody miracle.
It was really what we got.
Everton on December, whatever it was.
Yeah. As much as we moaned about Matheus Nunes, he'd be walking in our team every week, wouldn't he? From what he can bring. We just had that massive strop. Just on that subject, in terms of flexibility, Jonah asked, do you think that Gary will start the season with the back four with the difficulty of the opening fixtures? That's really interesting because it would be really brave going to Arsenal and then facing Chelsea at home with a brand new back four setup. So maybe it's something he eases into, because I know you've mentioned earlier on, Daz, he likes flexibility, but to certainly go to Arsenal in a 4-2-3-1 in the opening game would be very, very brave.
But you know what? I look at it slightly differently with these opening fixtures. I think God, don't play this back to me if we get absolutely mullered like we normally do. But it could be a good time to go to these teams straight after the Euros. A few of the players will just be late back after holidays, and a lot of these clubs don't tend to click into gear until autumn. So it might not be the worst thing in the world. I'd rather go there now than.
We did it at Old Trafford, didn't we?
Well, yeah. So I wouldn't just, they'll all be rocking up expecting them to hammer us again like they normally do. So I wouldn't write these games off. And maybe because other people are writing them off, it might be the time to actually be brave and say, okay, come on, let's go and have a go here and see what happens, and then shut up shop at half time.
we did that last season, 2-0 after 12 minutes, wasn't it? Yeah, that was a tough one. Let's get a few more questions in before we talk about the next thing. Luke James asks, how much is acceptable for Guedes and Silva to be sold and done no more loans? 5 million, 10 million each? Now, I don't know if I'm wrong, and I don't really understand financially why it makes more sense to do this. But from what I gather, Guedes will go out on loan again. And I don't really know what that makes sense. And if I had Craig Spillard on here, he could probably explain to me more. But apparently, it'll make sense for him to go on loan again and then be sold next year. I don't know. But I think when you've got someone like that probably, they've been bombed out of pre-season, that tells you you're not welcome to play for Wolves anymore. Go and find yourself another club. I'd be happy to sell each. Guedes, what did we buy him for, Tyler? 25 mil? Was it something like that? 27 million? He's had a decent season on loan. He's done okay. So can we get 10, 15 for him? Or?
I think you're struggling on both of them to get 10 million, if you ask me. But I don't see how Fabio Silva's worth anything, really, in regards to the transfer fee. And you're hoping again he goes on loan somewhere and starts scoring goals. But I think with these two, we might be writing that debt off, unfortunately. I just don't see how we recoup anything back.
It's a tough one, isn't it, Daz? You've spent there, what have you spent? The best part of £70 million on those players. And it felt like Guedes was almost forced to come, not like he never wanted to be here. And it felt like the Fabio Silva one was a deal that was done from someone that wasn't really wanted, but it was a bit of business done via the agent and the chairman, and it was a massive punt, and it probably turned out pound for pound. That's the worst signing in Wolves history.
Jeff Shee's vanity project, that was. I'd rather have Long John Silva than Fabio Silva. A bit more he wouldn't fall over quite as much. But I mean, I'm sure if somebody came in and actually gave us, made a proper bid, we'd take it. But no one's going to, are they? So you just pay a percentage of their wages. They pay a percentage of the wages, and they might pay a little sneaky loan fee. But no one's going to pay the sort of money. And eventually, when they both leave, we know that both deals will be undisclosed with a capital U, just to save face.
Yeah, they will do. But again, you'll see on the books what they're worth. Someone smarter than me will be able to look on the accounts and work out what they've gone for. But I think for both of those, if you're getting low fees, and that's fine, and then you just add on huge sell-ons, and I think people take that risk, because if they're going to get potentially a good footballer, well, maybe one of them is a good footballer, get that, and then you put the sell on, then you're covering yourself.
But it's like the Maidstone thing, going full circle, that if somebody comes in and says, here's, I don't know, I'm going to throw in numbers, £8 million for Fabio Silva. You think,
I'll take that now.
£8 million more than we're going to get for him otherwise, because we don't want him. So it might have to be one of those where anything we get with it for him pretty much is going to be a bonus, because they are both complete write-offs. Yeah,
I'm with you, Tyler. After his performances at Rangers as well, I'd be stunned if Wolves got more than £5 million for Fabio Silva. But £5 million still to a modern team for a 21-year-old isn't a huge risk, because
you're looking at attitude, aren't you? We talked about Kilman. You know what you're going to get. He was shushing the Rangers fans. He's obviously got an idea of himself that isn't reality. Not many teams are going to want to touch that, unfortunately. It's not even just about ability.
Yeah, this is true. But I know this is only one game, but I remember, I think 3 years ago, he played against Aston Villa. I think we drew 1-1. And in the first half, he absolutely ruined that defence at Villa. He was fantastic. He ran them ragged. There is a player in there, but I think he's probably got to apply himself more on the training pitch to find that player, because that player really hurt Aston Villa that day. He pressed them. He was robbing Mings. He was taking him on. There is a player in there. He just needs to, I think, well, Wolves have clearly said that's it now, isn't it? So, yeah, got £5 million plus 50% of any sell-ons. I'm taking that right now. Covered a lot so far on episode 101 of the Wolves Report. Chris Tyler, BBC WM's Daz Hale, and myself, Ryan Lester. Let's talk about something positive. For those listening on Spotify, Daz has got his marketing up. Obviously, now I've got to pay a fine for that, so the bill will be in the post. England. Now, up until yesterday, the progress has been good, but the watching has been painfully miserable. Now, it's a result business, and nobody's going to say, some people, the Southgate fans will say, I don't care. And they'll say I don't care even more now because England are in the second consecutive European final. They should have been going to this tournament as winners, but they're not. But I'm grateful for they're here this time. Let's start on a positive, Daz. The first 35 minutes for England last night was the best that England had played that tournament so far.
Yeah, and I do wonder how much it was to do with the fact we conceded early on. So we always look a lot better when we can't just sit back, when we've got to start being a little bit more adventurous, because that's our strength. I haven't enjoyed watching England. I did last night, and for all the criticism he's received, and I think a lot of it is justified, you have to say last night that was a defining moment for him, because when he took off Kane and Foden, who I thought
massive
was
shouts,
best game that he's had.
Bellingham should have gone off for me, mate.
Yeah, and then you think, if he's taking Kane off, he's bringing Tony on. To bring on Watkins at that point, and I'd have played more of Watkins because of his mobility, and he plays on the shoulder and gets in behind. But for him to do that, if we'd have gone out and he'd have took Harry Kane off and Foden and brought on the unfancied Watkins rather than the media golden boy Tony, he would have been absolutely slaughtered. So somewhere, I don't know how or why, he found a bit of bravery last night, and he actually took a risk, and it paid off. And I think that, they deserved it, didn't they? And it was great because at last now you can just feel, after weeks of the nation going, nah, so what? I bet you 3 Lions we're back in the top 5 this coming weekend.
No, what? That's the house call this morning when I was having my breakfast, I can tell you that.
The feel-good factor is back, and let's hope they can do it now.
Absolutely. There's a man on this podcast that's been texting me from the start on the group chat that's saying England are going to win the Euros. And he just pretty much said they're going to do it because they stink, and that's just the way England do things. Tyler, your prediction's looking good.
I've had us nailed on to win it, even when we weren't playing well. And there just seems to be a feeling that we're going to do it. I mean, there's no doubt is the Sunday's the biggest test by far. Spain are the only team I've seen that actually sort of get me off my seat and I want to watch. And I don't know if I'm getting old and more miserable, but international football seems a bit of a slog, doesn't it, to watch sometimes? But
France and England have been disgusting watches.
Just stink it. It takes some doing. It takes some doing for Southgate to make us look that ordinary. But I think Palmer and Watkins, they've got to get more minutes. He just has to find a way of doing it. Watkins' finishes was brilliant, genuinely brilliant finish. But the part Palmer plays shouldn't be underestimated. He picked the ball up and he went forward with the ball.
Yeah.
It's what we've not been doing. We've been sideways, backwards. So it's just a mentality thing.
You both absolutely nailed it. You both absolutely nailed it, because
it's interesting what he does on Sunday with his team selection. Yeah. And as regards the penalty, apparently they looked at the colour of the shirts and thought it was Wolves, and that's why they gave it. So
we'll come on to the penalty, because we're definitely going to have a split panel on that. But what was interesting for me is that he'd identified that obviously Kane's completely cooked, but the mobility of Watkins, and a shout out to my mate Steve-O, he's a big Villa fan. He was there. I phoned him after they'd scored. I mean, at the end of the game, the noise, the atmosphere, in his voice, he'd seen a Villa player do that. So I'm chuffed for him to have one of my mates to have witnessed that last night. Absolutely fantastic. But like you said, Tyler, Palmer picks the ball up, he goes forward, he'll play that cutting pass. Watkins will run into the space to take that pass. It was a dream combination. It looks simple, but my goodness me, that finish was world class.
It was simple, Ryan. That's not anything you've not seen Watkins do for Villa or Palmer do for Chelsea. They do it week in, week out for their clubs, and that, I think that's the bit we can't get our head around, is we've got all of these players that we see do so well week in, week out, and they've just not done it for England. Why? Who knows? But hopefully, like Dad says, it's all behind us, and we have our best game on Sunday.
Well, as you said, Daz, that performance last night, that first half, social media was like, "Hello, they've turned up," and that performance and the way they've won it, the nation is excited again. Not as like, I've got to watch England because it's England, and I don't really want to watch it because it's killing me. Last night was exciting. Granted, Kilman did well because he nullified the game in the second half because they were getting done. But Southgate moved again, 15 minutes to go or so, changed it, won the game. So maybe he's evolving, and I'm getting myself excited again. But
for Southgate, it's going to be whatever happens now. And it's funny because we've been doing
Tyler's face.
We've been doing these watch parties, and we were saying like he needs to take the handbrake off. This was a couple of weeks ago, and the bloke said, "Never mind, take the handbrake off. He ain't even put the keys in the ignition yet." Spot on.
It does absolutely feel like that. Let's talk about the penalty, and then there's someone throwing an England question as well. Now, me and Tyler have talked about this on the group chat, and I know Noki's been on there as well, Daz. I'd just like to get your take on whether it was a penalty or not. Obviously, VAR has called him in, the expert, the professionals brought him in. In modern football that we've all watched 10, 15 years ago, it's not a penalty in a million years, but studs up, he's caught the man, he's blocked him, he's given the penalty. That's Hale.
Disagree. I think it's
He
very...
hasn't caught the man, Ryan. What are you talking about?
Very similar to the penalty Manchester City got when they got their 4 or 5 goals for Haaland a few weeks ago. He has the shot, and then their feet collide. And if anything, Kane kicks him. But
Yes, Daz.
It's payback for the Koeman all those years ago.
You've texted him that, Tyler. Yeah. You've definitely texted him that.
No, it's not a penalty. It's ridiculous, but we'll take it all day long, won't we?
Yeah, 100% we'll take it because it is payment. Someone put the questions. I can't get that on. It's a bit further back, but it is painful. It is payback for the Koeman thing. I don't agree it was a penalty, but in modern football, those are the rules. He's raised his foot, he studs up. That's for me. That's what I think he's giving it. Go on, Tyler.
What's this phrase you keep giving me? Modern football. What are you talking about?
But why then is the professional VAR who's refereeing a semi-final of a European Championship giving it? He's giving it because it's a penalty.
He's giving it because in that opinion. We've talked about this a million times. You could have 100 people in that room. 50 will say penalty and 50 will say no penalty. So your VAR is just a waste of time. They've re-refereed the game because that's what they've done. It wasn't a clear and obvious error. They've re-refereed it, given a pen. If someone thinks it's fine,
I've got an idea. Why don't we get all the clubs to have a vote on whether or not on a minute? Yeah, and I've said before, I think a lot of people have said this. I do not want to hear one manager out of the class criticising our next season. And blooming Forest, and they're accusing him of all sorts. Even they absolutely... Well, let me think of a clean... when it came down to it. So, anyway, rant over. But now...
You put that yourself, Ryan? Is that
I had to, mate, yeah, because honestly, you're getting all upset.
Oh, gets me going. Modern football. I've heard it all now. What's modern football? Give me old-fashioned football, Ryan, from the 90s.
Yeah, I agree. When you and Daz and Noki were all dropping out with juices with bloody ears and cauliflower ears and bloody noses. We've got a question here. Sean's asked, and I purposely not Googled it because I don't know. Maybe Daz, you'll know. Sean's asked, the penalty shouldn't have been a penalty, in agreement with you two, but retribution has been finally slapped on Ronald Koeman. Question, who provided the ball over the top for David Platt that led us to the foul in question? You know the famous David Platt goal against Belgium? Who put the cross in?
It wasn't a goal. I know it, and you should know it.
Well, someone said, did he play for us? Was it Darren Anderson?
No.
That was before Anderson, wasn't it?
Before Anderson, you're talking... I mean, it was past his best.
It's not Andy Sinton, is it?
Andy Sinton.
It's not Andy Sinton, is it really? It's not. Because I swear that was Gascoigne. I thought that was Gascoigne.
No, I remember, for some reason, I remember it, but I just remember the move and the goal, but yeah. Well, the not goal, it wasn't a goal, was it? But
wow. Well, there we go. Sean, great question. We can't do a Wolves prediction, but we are. But we are going to do, and we are going to tweet that afterwards. # modern football. We are going to do prediction Sunday, 8 p.m. England v Spain European final. Daz Hale, your prediction and first goal scorer, please.
2-0 to England. They've won 6 matches.
Good God.
It'd be very unusual for a team to win 7 matches on the spin. 2-0 to England. First goal scorer, John Stones. Get on it.
Daz, thank you. Tyler.
That was said with such conviction, wasn't it?
It was. It's like he knows. He's been in that TARDIS in the BBC again and found out what's going on.
Not even Tony. What are the odds?
I just think we're going to win the tournament. I've said it all along. 2-1 England.
Oh, we're going to go for the hat trick.
Morata's to score first, and then we'll have to start playing, won't we? So, yeah, 2-1.
That's the way we go about our business. I'm going to go 1-0 England and Harry Kane. At the start of the tournament, like I always do, I had Harry Kane top scorer and England to win the tournament. So I got decent odds on that. If Harry Kane scores and win 1-0, I'll be a very happy man. This has been episode 101 of the Wolves Report. Thank you so much to BBTWM's Daz Hale. Hold your sign up, Daz. And also thank you to our director of football, Chris Tyler. We'll be back soon.
I really miss Calvin Phillips.
Oh, goodness me. Up the Wolves.